That's for sure. Absolutely. Here you go, Rabbi. Thank you very much. Okay, we are on Vav and Beis. Okay. One of Mrs. Safdie. Baruch Hashem. Trying to figure out here. We have a situation with the computer. The computer is not working again. But Yaron gave us his phone, and we're using Yaron's phone. Okay. So we're gonna leave it for Nathan. We're gonna leave it for Nathan Batesh to come to fix the computer. Okay. So let's get to Vav and Beis, everybody. Okay, we're on Vav and Beis in the art scroll. In the art scroll, we are Vav and Beis 6B3. 6B3. Rabbi Yossi Omer. We said in the Mishnah, we had a discussion in the Mishnah regarding the warning. What did we say regarding warning? We said you had a machlokas, you need two people to warn the guy, or the two witnesses have to be the ones who give the warning, right? Remember we had that opinion in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi says the witnesses have to give the warning. We had another opinion in the Mishnah that the witnesses do not need to give the warning. The warning can be done by the middleman, the guy in the middle. The witnesses are on the sides, and the guy is in the middle. That's what we had in the Gemara. So the Mishnah stated that Rabbi Yossi says you need two people to warn, but the other opinion in the Mishnah says no, you do not need warning by two witnesses to warn. The Gemara says even one witness, even one person, and we saw from the Rambam that witness the one who does the warning does not need to be a kosher witness. The one who does the warning could be a woman, an Evet Kanani. They could be the one that gives the warning as long as the warning was done in front of the witnesses. So we have two witnesses that say that there was a warning. That doesn't, right? So that's what we spoke about, a warning. Now the Gemara is going to focus in on Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Rabbi Yossi is very specific about who gives the warning. He says the witnesses themselves, and he brought a pasuk. The pasuk said, "Api shnayim edim yokum dover." Yes.
The warning.
Yes.
The witness, they have to see the guy doing the warning.
The witnesses have to see each other, or the guy who gives the warning has to see the witnesses.
We allocate that these two witnesses on each side of the windows, so both of them they saw the warning.
The two witnesses on the side of the window, they definitely again, they have what do they have to see? They have to see the act, the crime that took place. And the two witnesses we have to have two witnesses that we know there was a warning that was given, right? So we're going to have, but not that those two witnesses have to give the warning. No, the two witnesses do not need to give the warning, right? The two witnesses just have to know, to hear that the warning was given, right? Two witnesses have to be able to say, warning, Jaime. Two witnesses have to be able to come to court and say, this man who committed this crime was warned. We heard the warning. Either we gave the warning ourselves, or or someone else gave the warning, a woman gave the warning would also work. They need to say, we need to be established by the testimony of two witnesses that a warning was given. The guy was given a warning. But not necessarily, according to the Tanakhama, does the warning have to be given by the witnesses. There is an opinion in the Mishnah, which is not the halacha, that the witnesses themselves, who are the ones who establish they're the ones who make the testimony, they have to be the ones to give the warning. Because these are the guys that have to be involved in the warning as well. But that's not the halacha. But the Gemara is going to focus in on that opinion. On that opinion of the Mishnah, which is Rav Yossi, that states that the witnesses themselves have to give the warning. It's a technicality. Sometimes in life, there are certain technicalities that have to be met in order for something to go through, to something to be proper. So the opinion of Rav Yossi is there's a special technicality regarding a warning. And what's the special technicality about a warning? It doesn't matter if 100 people warn the guy. If those 100 people are not the witnesses on the crime, if they're not the ones taking the testimony, it's as if there's no warning. That's the Tanakhama. That's the halacha. But Rav Yossi disagrees. That's his opinion. Rav Yossi says, right, that kind of thing, you have to have.
It connects, Rabbi Yossi's argument, it connects them with their argument, with their testimony.
No, that was the first opinion of the Mishnah, that the warner in the middle connects the two witnesses on the side. But Rabbi Yossi said that won't even work. Because if the warner is in the middle, and if he's not the witnesses who are doing the warning, they're not, it doesn't work. You have to have. Where does he get it from? So the Mishnah said, because the pasuk says, Al pi shnayim edim yokum davar, that he understands when the pasuk says, by the testimony of two witnesses, the matter is established. So he understands the whole matter has to be established by them, both what they saw and the warning, which is an integral part. In order to nail a guy, in order to give to capital punishment to a guy, there has to be a warning. What'd you say? I mean, the other rabbis would say, Api Shnayim Eidim is the test. There's two different things. It's called the testimony and the warning. The testimony has to be done by the mouth of two witnesses, but the warning is an
said no translate.
Say it again.
No
Very good. And they said in different times that it could come for no translate. You have to get directly from the right. That could be their explanation. Okay. Now, or they could just explain it that the pasuk is just focusing on the witnesses for the testimony.
We already know that you
No, I'm saying they understand. That means that the matter of the testimony, you need a minimum of two witnesses. But does it mean to say it's talking about the witnesses? The mouth of two witnesses. So he'll say it's referring to the testimony. He'll make a difference between the testimony and the warning. Okay, so now we are on 6b3, right-hand column, Rabbi Yossi Omer. So now the Gemara is analyzing the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. 6b3, right column. Okay, Rabbi Yossi Omer. Rabbi Yossi says, now, Amalei Rav Papa l'Abaye. Rav Papa says to Abaye, Jaime, do you have the Gemara 6b3? Very good. Everybody got it?
No.
Okay, 6b3. 6b. Oh, in the Hebrew edition, on the Hebrew side, it's about towards the bottom of the page, about 8 lines from the bottom. Amalei Rav Papa l'Abaye. Rav Papa says l'Abaye. He seems to find a contradiction. It seems to be a contradiction between Rabbi Yossi in our Mishnah and Rabbi Yossi somewhere else. V'hatnan. You mean you're telling me Rabbi Yossi says we need to have a warning, and the warning has to be by the witnesses? What'd you say?
Three line.
Here. So,
You say three, he says
No.
the white line.
Right here. I'm going to Papa l'Abaye. Papa said he got it. Papa says to Abaye, Umi Islay, right? Umi Islay, the Rabbi Yossi Haisvara. Does Rabbi Yossi hold of that logic? It seems I found somewhere else that he said something else? V'hatnan. And the way Rashi learns, does Rabbi Yossi really hold that you need a warning? This technicality has to be, you have to check off the box of warning, that a warning is so integral in order to nail a person, to punish a person? Does Rabbi Yossi really hold that way? V'hatnan. We have a Mishnah somewhere else which contradicts this point. V'hatnan. Rabbi Yossi Omer. Rabbi Yossi says, Hasoneh, somebody who hates his friend. No, the Torah says, don't hate your fellow Jew. But this guy hates his friend. And the friend gets killed.
However, we can't find it.
Okay, we're gonna find it.
He can't find it either.
I
Well,
saw
I don't know where it is. Where are you?
But there is Hasoneh. What? Rabbi Yossi Omer, V'hatnan. We learned in the Mishnah. Show it to Michael. V'hatnan. We learned in the Mishnah. Hasoneh, if someone who's an enemy of somebody, he killed he killed his enemy, and you know what he says? He killed him unintentionally. You hear what happened? Someone is known to be an enemy of that guy. They're constantly fighting with each other. They're constantly in court with each other. And these guys, we know they're really enemies. And then we find the other guy's dead. And the question was, how did the guy get killed? And this guy, one enemy killed the other enemy. But we don't know. We have no way to know, was the murder done intentionally or was the murder done unintentionally? So what does Rabbi Yossi say? Rabbi Yossi says, you know what, Neherag. We're going to kill the enemy because meaning there were two witnesses on the deal. There were two witnesses that saw that this guy killed the other guy. He killed his enemy. So there's no two witnesses, we can't kill anybody. But what? He wasn't warned, as Mr. Safdie says. He wasn't warned.
The witnesses.
Nobody warned the guy.
No, Rabbi Yossi, the only way you can kill
You
the
need
guy is the two
That's Rabbi
witnesses.
Yossi. That's Rabbi Yossi says in the Mishnah. Here Rabbi Yossi says there's no warning. There's no warning, and you still could kill the suspect. They saw it. They didn't give any warning. So the Gemara is asking, we have an apparent contradiction. Rabbi Yossi says, that's called the stira. Rabbi Yossi says in the Mishnah that you need the witnesses themselves to give a warning. If there's no warning done by the witnesses themselves, you can't do anything to the guy. The court can't do anything. The court can't kill the guy. And here it says that someone who's an enemy of somebody and he claims that he killed the guy unintentionally, we don't buy it. The court doesn't buy it, and we're going to kill him, unless we have reason to believe that it was totally a total accident, or total that he did not realize that somebody was there, and he didn't realize his enemy was there. But if there is reason to believe he knew his enemy was there, he knew his enemy was in the room. And then witnesses are watching, and which are around town. That people are in the room and whatever, something, and someone gets killed, and the enemy gets killed. And he claims, no, I didn't mean to kill the guy. He was shooting, he was doing arrow arching, and it goes ahead and by mistake, it looks like by mistake his arrow hit the other guy. He shot the other guy by mistake. It's not a mistake. Jaime, what do you think, Jaime? Interesting. It's not a mistake that the guy got him. You should know, if he was shooting, he was at a shooting range, and somehow the shot went and hit his enemy. You could bet. At least this is Rabbi Yossi's opinion, that it was done intentionally.
But it's known that it's his enemy.
It's known that it's its enemy.
That's like the warning.
Okay. So Mr. Safdie says that's like the warning. Okay. So he says, but we're going to see. It says that's enough because we know that this was done intentionally. You could bet. Good morning, Ariel. You could bet, and good morning, Yosef Atzadik. You could bet that this was done intentionally. So therefore, the point of a warning, according to this opinion of Rabbi Yossi, is the warning is we need to establish that it was done intentionally. You have to know that the guy intended to go ahead and kill the guy. But here, So, but in this case, you don't need to go ahead and give the guy a formal warning. But because why? Because he does know because we know he was intending to kill this guy. You hear the case, Ariel? A guy is an enemy of somebody, and this front of witnesses, he kills his enemy, and he claims, I didn't mean to kill him. I meant to shoot over there, but it was an act. I meant to shoot the arrow that way, but the arrow somehow went the other way. So yeah, we have witnesses. We never can kill a guy based on his mission. We have two witnesses, different topic. We have two witnesses. They saw the guy shot the guy, and the guy claimed, I didn't mean to shoot him. Now, do we know that he meant to shoot him or not? So the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi says, you know for a fact that if it's his enemy, it wasn't an accident. It was not an accident.
So for someone you hate or someone you argue with.
Arguing is different than hate. You can disagree. We're talking about a hate, someone who an enemy.
You don't need a warning.
Say Rabbi Yossi says he doesn't need a warning.
That goes against the Torah.
No.
In every law, you need to have a warning.
Listen, Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion. So Rabbi Yossi has a different understanding of what the purpose of a warning for is. Rabbi Yossi says warning is not just a technicality. The guy has to be warned by the witness. Warning is the idea that the only thing you have to know is one thing, to prove intent. Exactly what Michael said. The warning is serving one purpose. If you could prove intent, whether he intended to do it or not, then you don't need a warning. If it could be proved some other way, you don't need a warning.
Motive.
What's his motive? Right. That's all that we need to establish. But that's very much against what he said in the Mishnah.
Why wouldn't the Torah just spread that?
No, I'm saying this is Rabbi Yossi. Because
I
this
know,
is.
but I'm saying like if that.
I mean, I'm saying we have to see where the sources where it's based at it. But this is Rabbi Yossi's end result, whatever his source is.
Yeah.
But this is his end result, bottom line law. His law is, and his understanding is, the warning is only given to understand intent. If you can know the guy did it intentionally, he doesn't need to be warned. Right. And also, we have to know that he knows that it's forbidden. Because if a guy doesn't know that it's forbidden, that also you can't kill a guy if he didn't know it. But in the case now, we're talking about a guy who knows you're not allowed to murder.
It's intent and knowledge that it's wrong.
Right, intent and knowledge. But the Gemara is taking for granted here. There is knowledge here that this thing is wrong.
It's obviously murder is wrong.
Right, but the question is, is there intent to murder here?
If it's to break Shabbat,
he might not know.
might not know.
Therefore, right.
We're saying murder. It's implied that it's wrong.
So let's say we're talking about murder of someone who knows that you're not allowed to murder. Let's say he knows you're not allowed to murder. And sometimes Shabbat, it could be a guy who's a learned guy who knows the law, right?
There's your knowledge, and then you know the intent he meant to do it for.
Whatever, right? And then you need to establish intent.
Otherwise, this case is still open. It's very obvious that you don't need a warning. So it don't go against Rabbi Yossi.
Now again, why is it obvious? If Rabbi Yossi said in the Mishnah that there is a technical point here, that but Rabbi Yossi, it's a different case. But again, Rabbi Yossi
seems to be contradicting himself.
You hear what Michael's saying? Michael's what?
Okay,
The fact that he hates him, that shows you that he intended. But good. So you're saying, Mr. Safdie, you're saying intending to kill somebody, you don't need to be warned. That's what you're saying, according to Rabbi Yossi, right?
Because he's a sonet.
Because he's a sonet. So therefore, you don't need to warn a guy if he's intended. So then the case of the Mishnah.
See the underlying point. It's that you only need to establish intent. So why do you need those witnesses to give him the warning if all you're trying to do is establish intent?
You hear the question?
No.
Why does the Mishnah says that Rabbi Yossi says? Good morning, Mr. Cohen. What? Say it again.
You can hate someone, but you don't want to kill someone.
Right, but that's true, Ariel. It's a possibility that a person is hating somebody even though he's not supposed to hate. But it's possible that he might hate somebody, he might not want to kill him. But if he killed his enemy, we're going to say Rabbi Yossi is going to say he did it, but he intended what?
Intent of hating it or intent of killing it.
Very good. That's true, Ariel. But I think the way the case is, Ariel, the case is the following. We're not talking about a case where, God bless you, that there was no way that you knew that your enemy was there and you killed him. That Rabbi Yossi will not say, you have no way of knowing. You have no great point, Ariel. No, if we could say clearly that you didn't have intent to kill the guy, the enemy, we're not going to kill the guy for killing his enemy if he didn't intend to kill his enemy. You're correct. But we're talking about a case where it's up to discussion. It's not. It's meaning we see we have people in the room. It's clear you knew your enemy was there, Ariel, and the guy was killed. And the question is, there's a clear question on this act. Was this act done intentionally, or was this act done unintentionally? That is a clear. It's clearly it could go either way. It could go either way. That the act there's two ways. Like many times in life, an action happens. Did you mean to do it, or did you not mean to do it? Did you, right? So that's the case, Ariel. Ariel, the case is when it's not clear the intent, as Michael used that word. It's not clear. It's possible he intended to kill him, and it's possible that he did not intend to kill him. He was shooting in a range. Again, so here, Mr. Safdie says, even though it's possible he's claiming I didn't mean it. He said, but the Gemara says, Rabbi Yossi said, if it's an enemy, you could it's this claim when a person says that he didn't intend to kill his enemy, when it's not clear whether he intended or not, you could bet
Why we care about that, Rabbi? Because we are
that he intended to kill him. Ariel, you hear what he's saying?
why we care about if he intended to maintain? We're just trying to prove from the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi is saying the only way we can kill the guy is the two witnesses did the warning.
Trying to
They did
disprove
the
it.
warning to kill the guy, right?
Right.
So now we bring the case. Now we bring the case of Rabbi Yossi, where we see that they kill a guy,
Right.
right? And the two witnesses didn't give the warning.
Right.
So that's the question where we're trying to understand. So we don't care if he intend, don't intend, they may zid, they should get, we don't care about that. We're trying to understand.
Rabbi Yosef.
No, we're not trying to understand Rabbi Yossi go against the Mishnah he just said. In the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi said the only way to kill the guy, you have to be the one to do the warning. Over here, we don't care if he intend, don't intend.
That's the
they
Gemara's
zid, they
question.
should get.
And you're right, but the only way we see it, Yaron, is by seeing his reason behind the law. Meaning, you're right, Yaron. We're only interested in figuring out whether you need a warning or you don't need a warning. But you're able to figure that out by seeing the reasoning, by seeing these cases. By looking at the case, then you can figure that point out. So look at the language of the Gemara. So the Gemara says, Hasonei, Rabbi Yossi Omer Hasonei, the enemy, Neherag, gets killed in court if there's two witnesses that the enemy killed his enemy, even though he was not warned. Mipnei shehu k'mu'at u'mutreh. He is like a person. You could look at this guy. It's as if he was warned. It's as if he was doing it intentionally. That's how you look at this guy. Okay. Okay. He's gonna try to fix. Okay. Maybe now it's good. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you for your help. So that's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara answers the following. Are you able to hear? Everyone able to hear? Is it clear? Come back. Yes. Thank you very much. So the Gemara answers the following. There's two Rabbi Yossis. Rabbi Yossi is a common name. Like sometimes, look at the Gemara. There's one Rabbi Yossi.
I was expecting a crazy finish.
The Gemara says because you're gonna find there's someone called Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda. There is a Rabbi Yossi. There's two Rabbi Yossi. There's Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. Rabbi Yossi, the son of Chalafta. Good morning, Mr. Batesh. Rabbi Yossi, the son of Chalafta. That's the one who's mentioned in our Mishnah. That every time in the Mishnah that you find the name Rabbi Yossi, it's Rabbi Yossi, the son of Chalafta. However, that Mishnah is a different Rabbi Yossi. That's Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda.
You built up the whole contradiction. I thought we were gonna get some crazy.
It's such a good contradiction that the Gemara says it's two different people.
It's so
It can't
crazy.
be the same person because he's
Makes me
not.
feel good. I was trying to think of how it could.
Very
work.
good. You see, sometimes when you have the contradiction, it's so apparent that it's not the same person talking. It's two different people. It's not the same person. So therefore, there's no contradiction. Contradiction would be if the same person says two different things, opposing views. He's arguing on himself. But two different people have a right to have two different opinions. And that's what the Gemara says. That's what in the Tanya, we learned in the Braita, and now the Gemara is going to show this point. The Tanya we learned in the Braita, Rabbi, yes. Morning, Jay.
Let's say you do one time the warning to someone.
Yes.
You don't this guy will serve the
But you give them the warning, right?
and the second time, let's say by stealing. If we give one time the guy the warning,
We don't want a guy for stealing.
don't
We only have to want it. We don't want a guy in monetary matters. We want a guy when it comes to giving a guy. If you ever want to give a guy capital punishment, if you ever want to give a guy lashes, he has to be warned. But we don't want a guy. By the way, if you steal, you're gonna have to pay double if you get caught.
give you warning.
We don't give a warning to the guy when it comes, and you have to get lashes either. Correct.
But a lot of stuff you get lashes.
Yeah, many things. Yeah, there are many rules. When you do, when the guy does, and when the guy does. So the Gemara says, the Tanya, Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda Omer, Chaver, someone who's a learned person, educated person in Torah, Ein Sarich Hatra. He says if person's a Talmid Chacham, you don't have to warn him about anything. You know what you want to tell him. By the way, if you do this malach on Shabbat, if you do this thing, it's a violation. If you make this fire on Shabbat, if you cook on Shabbat, you're gonna be chayam mitah, and you don't need to warn the learned guy. You don't have to warn the learned guy that he can't go ahead and write on Shabbat. He knows already the laws. He knows he's already forewarned. He knows. So this is the opinion of Yossi. It's not the halacha. Halacha says you always have to warn. Even the Torah scholar, you have to warn beforehand. But Rabbi Yossi Yehuda says that lefi shelo nitna hatra'ah, the whole point of warning el havchin ben shogeg lemezid. The point of a warning is to separate between someone who is doing something unintentionally to someone who's doing intentionally. We need to know the intent of a person. The court will never kill a person, will not kill a person or give lashes to someone who did something unintentionally. He didn't know. If he didn't know that it was forbidden, he didn't know he was killing somebody, we don't give him a punishment. But if he knew that it was forbidden, then there's no point of a warning. When you warn someone, now you know you're not allowed to do it. But if the guy knows without the warning, so you don't need the warning. There's no need for the warning. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda. However, in the Mishnah says otherwise, that there is a need for a warning, even if the person, Rabbi Yossi in the Mishnah holds as a technical point that a person has to be warned. Not only it has to be warned, it has to be specifically the witnesses themselves. Is that good, Mr. Savage? Even the Talmid Chacham has to be warned. Correct. Okay.
Yeah,
All types of things,
must
right.
give them a warning.
You have to give the guy a warning. Now we found maybe there's an exception, but in Zomimim, right? We found that might be an exception to the rule. But generally speaking, they're warned in the Torah, but they're not warned before they testify. Right. Okay.
Why is that exception?
Okay, that's a good question. Why is that an exception? Why? Because the court could just unless maybe the Torah wants to show how strict they're going to be with the framers.
So that's true. Murder.
Yeah, but
No, murder not that strict.
Right.
That's strict.
yeah, they are, because murder is created to kill. Let's say you kill someone, you need to witnesses.
Okay. So now the next point in the Gemara. Dava acher. We said in the Gemara. We said al pi shnayim edim shelo yisanhedin shomat lepi haturgaman. The other law we said is that the court is not allowed to hear from an interpreter. the court needs to have understand the language of the witnesses directly. That's what we said in the Mishnah, and we found subsequently in the Shulchan Aruch that it's only lechatchila. Lechatchila is a big deal. That means to say, if you're able to have judges that could understand the witnesses, not to need an interpreter, those are the judges we have to hear the case. But in a case, there's nobody who understands the witnesses. None of the judges. Let's say the witnesses come from a town and they saw a murder, and the witnesses don't have talk a language which is not common. Good morning. And the judges we don't have any judges here that know the language. The judges they could hear the case. If we're stuck, but the Torah tells us that ideally there's an ideal. The ideal is we do not want to, the court does not want to rely on an interpreter. There's always a possibility an interpreter might not interpret something exact. It's not the same. Not the same when you deal with someone, you hear from someone directly, when you cross-examine. And it should be, so far for murder, we have to see it, does it apply for other cases as well. But for sure, it's any time that anytime the court is going to kill someone, it doesn't have to be murder. It could be desecration of the Shabbat, worshiping idols, any capital case that involves capital punishment, and court of 23 or above, we need at least 23 judges on capital punishment, that is supposed to ideally try to find people, good morning, good to see you, supposed to assign people that know the language of the witnesses. And therefore, the Rambam says that when you appoint judges, they should be fluent in most languages. Now, I don't know that he means most languages. If there's 70 languages, that they have to know it's 36 languages. I presume he means that most of the language of the common languages that are like in our days. If we have a court in New York, they need to know Spanish, English, Chinese. Do you want to write a Chinese? What? Russian? Maybe those languages. That's what the court. That's what you have to know those languages. You want to be appointed as a judge of a court. In order for you to say that's part of your requirements.
It's easy, Rabbi. You 36, each one or 1 or 2 languages.
Yeah, but the point is that the Sanhedrin, the whole Sanhedrin, every member of the Sanhedrin, it's not enough that a few individual members of the court know the language. Every member of the court supposed to be fluent. Mr. Rapport, how do you like that idea? Fascinating. No interpreters. We don't want interpreters. We want to hear. That's the Torah's ideal. That's the Torah's ideal, that every member of the court should be able to understand exactly what the person is saying. And when you hear from someone directly, then you could cross-examine them better. Everything can be done better, when you hear from them directly. But at the end of the day, if we don't know their language and they're the only witnesses that we got to call upon them, then we will call in an interpreter if we have to. Okay. So now the Gemara brings the story. Hano lo'azi. There were some witnesses that spoke a foreign language, like we say, "Me'am lo'ez" in the Hallel. Lo'ez, the foreign nation. They spoke of a foreign language. The Atula Kami de Rava. They came in front of Rava, and they came to the court of Rava. Uki Rava Turkma Benayu. Rava appointed an interpreter. He didn't know what the language these witnesses, the rabbi was Rava, he was leading the court. Rava was the leading judge. And he said, we got to go ahead and we got to appoint an interpreter. We need an interpreter. We don't understand the language of the witnesses. We are going to appoint an interpreter. So the Gemara says, Hechi Avid Hachi.
Who choose the translator?
The court will choose.
So we trust that. It's not like the weekly they come there.
Yeah, but again, sometimes things are not. Sometimes the translator, when they explain something, they might add a word, detract a word. So we say we should not use a translator. So the Gemara's question, what did you say?
Translator be a judge.
No, because even the judge himself, when he translates to the other members of the court, we want
the same mention. Let's say you have Rabbi Yossi and he speaks Russian, and you like Rabbi Yossi, please come. And Rabbi Yossi is part of the Lord Sanhedrin.
Still, we want every member of the court to be able to hear directly from the witnesses and understand exactly what they're saying. So now, that's what we're looking for. That's what the Torah is looking for. Again, if we speak English, we speak Spanish, we speak Chinese, we're fine. We're good. Most of the witnesses, that's most things happening in New York are made of that, of those people.
Back when the winners spoke Hebrew, maybe Aramaic, then like the people coming from, I don't know, Greek or wherever they're coming.
Yeah, they were not traveling back in the
Not
day.
every 71 of the Sundays don't understand those guys language.
Okay, so again, so like we said, Jake, like we said, we're gonna try, they can understand as many languages as they can. If we're stuck, we'll use an interpreter.
Every single one of them have to know every single
Lechatchila. What do you, and again, as many languages, the Rambam doesn't say that every member of the court has to know all 70 languages. The Rambam says most languages. So the question, what does he mean by most languages? I presume he means the common languages. That the world is made up of a certain amount of people, which have certain, majority of the languages are spoken by a certain amount of the people, a large percentage of the people. So now, what does the Gemara say? They can't. Rava appointed an interpreter.
It happens, like a lot of people in the US, work in the US, speak many languages.
You could speak 6, 7, 8 languages.
Right, and then that covers a lot of. Again, remember, people didn't travel. They were traveling as much. Today, we live in a much more mobile society. People didn't travel that level. People that are witnessing on a crime that happened, and they're coming to this court. So most probably they saw, if they're coming to this court in this town, where did the crime happen? The crime happened within the vicinity, most likely. So kind of vicinity, so the people in the vicinity speak that type of language. So the Gemara says, how could he appoint an interpreter? But now the Mishnah states, they should not hear from an interpreter. So the Gemara answers a beautiful answer. Rava made the Haviyada. Rava knew, he understood what they said, but he wasn't able to speak the language. Many times in life, I can understand Yiddish pretty good. I can't really speak Yiddish. I can understand it because I attended many classes in Yiddish. Many Torah classes were given from the old rabbis in the old generation, pre-World War II, that I attended. So I picked up Yiddish, but I really can't hold real conversation in Yiddish. So Rava also, he picked the language that he had was a language that he understood what the witnesses were saying, but he wasn't able to converse and talk back. He needed the interpreter for one side of the deal. He only needed the interpreter to tell the witnesses what he wanted to say to them, but he understood what they were saying. And therefore, even though there might have been other judges that were around, who knew to speak their language, Rava did not need to send it off to another court who could speak the language, as long as Rava himself was able to understand the language. So is that beautiful? We'll end with that. Rava made the Haviyadi Madavi Amri. We're saying the words inside. Dr. Navid always appreciates when we look at the focus and the language of the Gemara. Rava made the Haviyada. Rava, he knew Ma the Havi Amri. He knew what they were saying. Vahadurei, but to respond, Hu de lo Haviyada. He didn't know how to respond, how to talk, to respond to them, and that was the point of the Maturah Gemara. So we're looking back. We'll see everyone on Monday. Sunday we will have a phone conference here on a related topic. Okay, and then we're going to start a new. I want davening. I don't want people to come late to davening. Have a great Shabbat, everybody. Monday back live. All the best. Thank you so much for joining. Shabbat, beautiful Shabbat.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. All the best. You too. Take care, Jaime. All the best.
Rabbi, we need to get you a new computer. This one is
Sorry.
broken.
Yes.
I'm Shabbat Shalom. Beautiful.
Rabbi, you're allowed to interpret